As the Prophet Muhammad said, "Give charity without delay, for it stands in the way of calamity." It's a reminder from our Prophet, giving not only changes lives, it also protects us from mishaps. When we give generously, we receive blessings in return. It's not about the size of your donation, it's about the consistency of your generosity. Even your small contribution can make a big difference in people's lives. Visit umrrelief.org today and join us on our journey to changing lives.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another season of our show Balancing Deen and Dunya. We are happy to be joined again this year, this Ramadan, with many different guests from the community who are leaders, who are trailblazers, who are making change and making differences in our communities. So Ramadan Mubarak to all, and I'm happy that today we have with us a guest who had joined us last year as well, and it's an honor to have him again, Brother Aziz Bhuiyan, who is currently the chairman of the Muslim Advisory Council of Nassau County. He was raised and educated in Bangladesh and in the US. He has extensive working experience in the business and nonprofit sectors. He's one of the founding members of the Ideal Islamic School, the Hillside Islamic Center, and the American Muslim Voice. He's also the chairman of the board of trustees of the Hillside Islamic Center, Dar es Salaam Masjid, and the American Muslim Voice. He obtained his bachelor's from a university in Bangladesh and also a business management certificate from NYU. He is blessed with 2 children and is also now a grandfather. So please help me in welcoming Brother Aziz Bhuiyan.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's so nice to have you on our show again. I know that we were able to host you last year as well, and we got to learn a little bit about the work that you do in the community, in the masjid, but also a bit about your family as well, your children, their spouses, and your da'wah work within the family as well as, outside in the community. So now that we have you here with us again, a year later, I'd love to hear some updates. What have you been up to? What have you engaged with lately in terms of the community and the family as well?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah, salatu salamu ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. Ramadan Mubarak to you and all your viewers and everybody who would be listening in the future, inshallah. So many additions. First of all, updates many. So on a personal level, I have 2 addition to the family. I have one from my son. I have Halima. She's now 6 months old, and from my daughter Yusuf is only 13 days old. He was born not this Friday, the past Friday, alhamdulillah. So this is on personal level, alhamdulillah. I'm blessed right now. A grandfather of 4 grandchildren. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all our children and everyone. And bless them to be qurrat a'ain for all of us, inshallah. As far as the situation on the ground, we know since October 7th, things have changed drastically for a personal life, in terms of community, in terms of responsibility, in terms of how do you deal with it. So it's been a lot of, juggling and pressure in the community, and a lot of work has been going on, and also more needed to be done. So October 7th, actually, they said it changed the trajectory for all of us. It has, and the devastation since then, the genocide being committed against our brothers and sisters in Palestine, Gaza, and and beyond. It is beyond imaginations, and we see the deafening silence from our political leadership, to the point sometimes you feel like they're the spokespersons for the Israeli, the IDF. And that's really disappointing for all of us, because sometimes most of these politicians that we worked with in the past, and now we feel like we're betrayed. And when it comes to really to deliver something meaningful for us, none of them are there. So this is something really a path that we have to navigate very carefully, and without, with a careful plan, because so we make sure that this does not happen again, to make sure the politician understands that we cannot be taken for granted anymore, and this is not something that we would expect. So in that regards, also a lot of work we've been doing. And as I said, I'm also part of Masjid Shura. I'm the the uh, chairperson, also the task force that we built since then. So we started since October 7th. So the lot of work, a lot of people are doing a lot of work, and and some young brothers and sisters are doing tremendous work, and may Allah reward them and help them to be steadfast in what they're doing. It is accepted, because this is a huge challenge to some of us, I mean, on personal level and professional level, but yet they're taking the chance and doing it. So we definitely remind all of us. And the challenge is not over yet. Actually, you have more challenges now, because you have the elections coming. We just had a special election in New York District 3. Now we have the election coming again, the presidential election, and then some of the congressional elections will be also out there. So we need to make sure that we work very hard and diligently, understanding the dynamics that what we have with. But we need to be resolute that no matter what is the situation is, no matter what the position is, we cannot forget our brothers and sisters, or even if they are not, even if they are not, whatever, humanity needs to stand up, because what is happening, and the atrocity is happening. The more than 2 million people have been displaced, close to 40,000 people, most of them are children and women. We cannot stand as a Muslim, even if it were somewhere else, even if we're in in Romania, I mean Ukraine and all these things. So as a Muslims, first and foremost, as a responsibility as a Muslim, that we need to stand against all these injustices. As Rasulullah says, if you cannot stop it by hand, do it with your voice. If you cannot do it with your voice, do it with your inside in your heart. And that is the lowest of our Imam. And we remind ourselves, and especially this time is an added responsibility. These are our brothers and sisters, and in Palestine, and we need to make sure that we do everything possible for us. So that's been very hectic and been very busy, very involved, and we are doing our best. Not this is hopefully, inshallah, it'll pay off. We'll see some results. Some results we can see. That we have the New York City councils. Many of them also right now signing on to the ceasefire. And I think today or yesterday was the first time we have one New York senator. She also signed on the ceasefire, and of course our congressman Mamdani and few others already saying. For the U.S. Congress, we know the list of it. So a lot of work's been going on, but we want all of our brothers and sisters, especially those of us who are involved in the masajids and center. This is the time we want to make sure that they understand that we cannot, that things cannot be, as it was before. We not while our brothers and sisters do not have even water to drink for their iftar and for the suhoor, and we are inviting politicians to our iftar, and and giving them the audience, that these same politicians would not only would they not call for a ceasefire, they have no decency even to acknowledge.
Absolutely, yeah. So, Brother Abdul Aziz, I think you're bringing up some really important points. First of all, Mabruk on the birth of the grandchildren. It's a double blessing, alhamdulillah, that within the year you have two little ones to fill your home with smiles and joy, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
And you also bring up the point of in your position as a community leader, as a leader of the masjid, being in kind of that difficult space where you're navigating community relationships, political relationships as well. Of course, we know that the role of the masjid as a charitable religious organization is not necessarily to be a political lobbyist, but we also recognize that many politicians, particularly in years past, have made it a point to try to have that visit in the masjid, to recognize that the Muslim vote is powerful and that when Muslims do vote as a bloc, it can make a difference. One of the greatest upsets, I think, that we have seen in recent history is what happened in Michigan with the uncommitted vote, and the fact that it was completely unexpected by the Biden camp that the Muslims would kind of rally together and act as one hand in one voice. And we know that it sent a very powerful message, and we began to see a shift kind of in perspective and in language and in PR within the political schemata. However, I think it's a very delicate balance. And, our show is about balancing deen and dunya. And part of finding that balance as a masjid leader, as a community leader, is listening to diverse voices. Many of the Muslim organizations are, kind of in conversation now saying, if we don't have a seat at the table, we're going to be the meal on the table. So we need to engage with politicians. We need to invite them into our masajid. What is your view on that? How do you deal with other Muslim, individuals or organizations who are telling you, invite politicians, let's talk to them? And maybe there's the other camp that says, boycott politicians, no invites, no meetings, so that our voice could be heard. How do you find the balance?
Yeah, it's a very, very good point, and it's a very critical, path to navigate. I mean, it's not something that. But we also need to understand, first and foremost, we are Muslims, and we are responsible. The day of judgment, Allah will ask us about our actions, and we'd have to answer for it. I always tell everybody, I don't know what the future holds. Allah knows. I have no control over it. But Allah will never ask me about what is happening in the future, and how come you didn't. You didn't think about the future and all this thing. Allah will ask me about the situation that I see in front of me, the past experience that I have. Based on that, did I make the right decision? And Allah will ask me. Now, if I look at it as a person, let's say I'm talking about right now as an individual. As an individual, if I see that I have this crime being committed against humanity, if I see this XYZ are responsible for it, and I don't stand up first to see, as I said, I started with that, if I cannot stop them by hand, if I don't voice my opposition, or at least my saying that this is wrong, it cannot happen. Or if I cannot even do that, if I cannot, at least say that this is not something, have a dislike of what is happening, then I will, for sure, for my limited knowledge, that Allah will ask me that, just for the expediency of having a relationship or having a seat at the table, I have compromised the basics of what an Islamic principle is supposed to be. But does it mean that we completely, not sit with them? No, because whoever in the power, they're the one who they have the control of the power of the liver, control of the liver. They're in control. So we need to sit down and tell them what it is. But the sitting down has to be not with the point that I'm going to sit down and just and lovey and everything, and not bringing up the point. Yes, we have met many politicians. We have made the people responsible who are making decisions, the politicians, and we give them our positions. If we are not meeting, then definitely they also will just go in a vacuum without not knowing what is our situation is. Yes, so it has to be that we need to engage them. We need to sit with them and give them what you're going through, what the situation is, what the position that Muslims are in, what is how the Muslims are feeling, what the voters are. So you mentioned in Michigan, there was not only Muslims there. I mean, if you look at the statistics, 70% of the young Democrats, or even more, they don't like what is Biden administration doing. So it's not only Muslims. Between Democrat and Republican, it was almost like 140,000 people voted uncommitted. It's not only Democrats. Democrats about 105, 103,000 to 5,000, something like that. Yeah. But Republicans also voted about 35, 40,000. That's a huge statement, meaning that many people, and of course, because it's, it's just no contest primary, so nobody came out to vote. Even in that,
Yeah.
people came out to vote. So yes, we need to make sure that we engage them. But when you invite them to your, look, what you have to understand, that when you're in a leadership position, look at your congregants, look at, I'm sure in the Jummah and, in other speeches, the imams are reminding people about the plight and the situation, the devastation that what is happening in, not only in Palestine and, Sudan and any other places. When you have that in front of you, that, you can see on the television screen that your brothers and sisters, and they, don't have any food, there's no shelter, mothers been giving birth or just, being aborted simply because there's no facilities there,
Mhm.
and you invite these people to your home, to your places of worship, what message are you giving them?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yes, do not invite them to this kind of iftar and all kind of thing. And
Mhm.
not only that, avoid having those kind of things, because how in a right mind can you have an iftar gathering where you have 10 items, and most in some of
Mhm.
and wastage that we have.
Mhm.
May Allah forgive us for this kind of thing. How would you go in a good conscience stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say, look, Allah, I've done my best, and we're doing this. So yes, engaging them politically, have a
Mhm.
meeting with them, bringing our point, the plights, the situation, the problems that we're facing, the Islamophobia, the rhetoric, false rhetoric being spewed out by by the oppositions, those politicians and otherwise, it is making our life miserable. Bring those items to them and what we are looking for. And if we do not have this politician address this, there will be consequences. The Muslims and, people alike,
Mhm.
right-minded people. It's not only Muslims, as I
Right.
said,
Right.
70+% of
Mhm.
the people do not like what is happening. And
Yeah.
thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this social media. Not that I'm promoting it, but
Yeah.
had it not been for the social media, nobody would have known what is happening there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Our mainstream media is completely bought into those, rhetoric, that
Yes.
it is Hamas took
Mhm.
seven, civilians. Yes, those civilians from the Israelis also needs to be treated properly. It needs to be released. It needs to be all these things.
Mhm.
But when you only take only one side, and our politicians, deliberately just blindsided,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we invite them to your, have a dinner with them, that is really,
I
it's not
hear
something
you.
that I can,
Yeah.
reconcile myself with.
Yes. So, I definitely hear you, in terms of strategically, enforcing certain guidelines and acting as a unit. And as you said, working with allies as well, not just limiting ourselves to the Muslim community, recognizing that, speaking out against genocide and stopping oppression is something that is a widespread humanitarian concern. And I think that's super important from a political perspective. But I also want to dive into the human services side of things, as the leader of a masjid, we often see masajid on the front lines, especially in the month of Ramadan, collecting donations, trying to support the vulnerable populations that are in need. We know right now in Gaza there is, a massive need, whether it's for food, supplies, medical elements, things that are really, pivotal in this moment, particularly knowing that the UNRWA has been defunded in many ways. What can you, as a masjid leader, guide the masjid towards, guide those donors who want to help? How do people get to help, particularly when there's so many blockades right now in terms of getting humanitarian relief into Gaza?
Yeah, it's a huge challenge, as you mentioned. First of all, there's so many eyes on us, especially,
Mhm.
uh, you have to be so careful that, if you do anything, and then tomorrow they somehow put this organization as, one of the terrorist sympathizer, so forth and so on, you might be in a trouble and all these things. But yet at the same time, we cannot stop, because we know the suffering is happening, and as a Muslims we have to respect. So we're asking everyone to, of course, make sure that you collect funds, and make sure that we do our best
Mhm.
uh, to the organization. They're already there, the Helping Hand, you have the Islamic Relief, you have the Zakat Foundations.
Mhm.
Alhamdulillah, these are reputable organizations, and they are doing a lot of work, and I'm sure the other organizations are there as well. they're reputable organizations, and they're pretty much been in the business for a long time, and they're doing that. I know they're so we need to channel our resources through them to make sure that we do our best, and but please make sure that you raise fund for the brothers and sisters in Gaza and beyond. Right now it's just spread it all over, so we need to make sure, but we need to raise fund, we need to make the first important, and also make dua for them that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the calamities from, not only from them, from all the Muslims.
Ameen.
And but do make sure that whenever you do, I just want to go back to a little bit about inviting the members of Masjid Shura. I'm also a board member of Masjid Shura of New York, so what we've done is, in order to protect the 501c status of the masajid, as you said, we're in a very situation where we need to make sure that 501c status has been protected. So we sent out a letter prior, I think the week before Ramadan, that we are recommending that the masajid should not invite any politicians. In other words, so we do not pick and choose that, okay, this guy I'm going to invite, the other guy I cannot invite, because that's where you will risk your 501c status. Because if, let's say, if you invite one person, one elected representative, and who is friendly to us, and he's good to call for ceasefires and all this, and the guy who is not doing it, and he says that because I want to come in, and you block him, you put yourself in jeopardy. So we sent out the letter and a recommendation, a guidance to all the members, Masjid Shura members, and everybody else in the community, that when you invite, so we're asking, because of the situation right now, that we're asking everyone not to invite any politician to the house of worship, because people at the masajid level are the pure congregants, the musallis. They are emotionally destroyed, they're really emotionally hurt. They don't want to hear this cheap talk from the politician, who is completely ignoring the plights, the deaths and destructions of your brothers, and not only one or two, is they're close to almost 40,000-50,000 of them. How in the right mind can you invite any politician to the masjid who have not even acknowledged that? So we are strongly recommending all the members, the masajid leaderships and the community leaders, not to invite them to your masajid. Anyone, we're not naming anybody, but you do not open your door to any politician, because you cannot pick and choose. Other way, you might be putting your 501c status in jeopardy.
Yeah. So I think that's very good advice, especially to masajid leadership, things of that sort. You mentioned a lot of the different organizations that are supporting abroad. We also know locally, organizations like UMR, for example, which is the organization that sponsors this ITV show, also provides support for those, families, few and far between, but some families have been resettled actually in the US. I know there's a family that was recently resettled in Houston. I know a lot of the organizations on the ground here, charitable organizations such as UMR, as we mentioned, has been providing support as well. So I think there's a lot of different ways throughout the month of Ramadan that we can find avenues to support, and doing our research, looking into the different organizations, seeing who is providing what support, monetarily, but also, like you said, the importance of supporting with our dua, the importance of seeking Allah Azza wa Jall's rahmah, and recognizing that it will come, inshallah, maybe not in our lifetime, but maybe in our children's lifetime or our grandchildren's lifetime. And that's a dua that we want to consistently make. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here in the last few minutes that we have together, Brother Abdul Aziz, and I want to talk a little bit about the general, way of balancing your life. As I mentioned in your bio, you are involved in so many different community initiatives, and you lead many different organizations, and you're a central figure, I know, in the Islamic community in New York in particular. How do you find balance between, what you do in the community, what you do in your home with your children, with your spouse, with your grandchildren now, and what you do on a day-to-day, work life type of a trajectory?
Well, the balancing it has different aspects of it. Number one, first of all, how do you balance your family life, giving time to them, and then, of course, giving time to the community that you're involved, or responsibility that you have from the community level. Yeah, this is especially nowadays is gotten tougher, because you have tremendous work needs to be done, and you have only few people that really you can do it. So if you are in, one of those lucky one, or one of those one, then you really need to make sure that the both sides of you, you, of course, your family have to understand you, to have a sit down with them, talk to them, make them understand, but you make sure that but the time that whatever the time that you have, you do not go on wasting time to accept that you're really doing a project or doing some work outside. But other than that, we try to put your time. Myself, I do, because my grandkids were just here the last Friday. So alhamdulillah, what I did is, I made sure that I spend my time with them. Everybody knows this is my time that I usually don't, get any distraction. So, and not much things happening, like right after, start, or just after Maghrib to Isha, I usually, but nowadays we have like 5-6 meetings happening all the time. So, but yes, I do recommend that everybody has their own way of finding time, but I recommend that please make sure that you do not ignore your family, because they really need you as well. So, as much as the community needs. As far as the the collections and dawah work that we do, the other aspect of balancing is, one thing I always tell people, that whenever you are involved in any dawah work, please understand one thing: this is for your own sake. This is not for grandstanding. That everything, if Allah blessed you to be in a part of any masajid, part of organization, and you're doing the dawah work, understand that this is only for your own sake. This is not to attain a leadership position, not to attain a name or fame, so that you could do something. Those of us fail to do this. Today and tomorrow you will feel it, that people really rejecting you. People, you will be exposed. So all of us, I would remind myself and everybody else, if we have not done so, please think inward and make an intention. That, Ya Allah, everything that I'm doing, that it is all for my own sake, that please use me to the best of my ability, that way you see fit. Because once you have that in our right, we will make mistake for sure, because we're human being. Shaitan is always there. Shaitan will tell me, Abdul Aziz, you are such and so, why do you have to do that? Yes, those things are there. But of course, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always said, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. When the whisper of shaitan comes, turn to Allah and seek protection from Allah. So my advice is a reminder to myself and everybody who are in this space, working for the dawah, for the deen, for the community, and for your own sake. Make sure that this is something that on the day of judgment, you'll be able to stand in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah will not question you about your sincerity. So that would be my best advice, reminder to myself and everybody else.
I think that's very good advice, Father Abdul Aziz. And I think, we're constantly reminded, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّةِ, right? Our actions are but by intention. And the sincere intention is that which, inshallah, will lead to an action that hopefully will be accepted. And I think, your point about spending time with our family, it's so critical and so crucial. And I think, what we learn when we see the suffering in Gaza, we see the suffering in Sudan, we see the suffering in so many places around the world. We see just the value of family and, the blessing that Allah Azza wa Jal has given us in the safety of our homes and in the connection with our families. And for so many people, in so many different places of the world, that blessing is sometimes removed from them, and of course, replaced with other blessings in the form of Allah, providing that tahara in terms of the suffering in this dunya. So I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal removes the suffering and the difficulties from all of the ummah and from all those who are struggling in these difficult times. I pray that Allah Azza wa Jal continues to place a great deal of barakah in the work that you do in your organization and in your family, and particularly with the new additions to the family. In the last minute or two, Brother Abdul Aziz, is there any words that you want to share with viewers before we wrap up?
Yes. I wanted to remind again to all of our brothers and sisters, especially those who will be listening. And if you are involved in masajid, please, there are also communities here, immigrant community, those who are migrants came from overseas. If they're in your community, and they're coming to the masajid, and please open the doors for them, because they're desperate people. They also need help from us. So if they come to your center and they're looking for iftar and suhoor, please try to help them. Do not shun the door, because this is something that we cannot. As Muslim, we make sure that we do. Second thing, again, to remind all of us, please do not think that this just inviting the politician to your masjid, to your gathering, is going to make things better. It is going to only help if we can all stand together and give them a strong message that whatever they're doing, we do not accept, and there will be consequences for them. And to begin with, to start with, invite these people. Do not invite them to your masjid. And yes, engage with them, sit with them, but do not invite them to masjid, especially in Ramadan. And please make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have blessed us, forgive us, and save us from the hellfire. Not only that, and also take an example of what the sufferings of the brothers and sisters in Gaza are going through. The sacrifice they're going through, yet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them such a patience, sabr. And that is the huge lesson for, and especially in the month of Ramadan, to have sabr. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us with the sabr and and all the blessings of Ramadan. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again forgive us for our shortcomings. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala unite us, and so that we can become as a community and in strength to be reckoned with, inshallah.
Ameen, ameen, ameen. Jazakallahu khair, Brother Abdul Aziz, for joining us today and for sharing your words of wisdom and your advice to masajid leaders, to those who are in the community doing da'wah work, and guiding us towards a better perspective in terms of how to move forward in these current days. Thank you to UMR, United Mission for Relief, for sponsoring this program and for allowing iTVusa to continue presenting our show, Balancing Deen and Dunya. Ramadan Mubarak to all, and I hope I get to see you again in tomorrow's show, inshallah. Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.